Hi everybody, today I'm going to compare two logistics REITs. One is called Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust, and the other one is called Mapletree Logistics Trust. Before we do a comparison, let's have a brief understanding of the REIT itself. Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust is one of the 6 largest REITs listed in Singapore and is also one of the STI component stocks. It is formed by the merger between Frasers Logistics and Industrial Trust and Frasers Commercial Trust in 2020, which is last year. And the sponsor for this REIT is Frasers Properties, which is a multinational company that have a total asset of close to $40 billion. And the sponsor not only have Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust under them, they also have another 4 REITs, which is the Frasers Centrepoint Trust and Frasers Hospitality Trust, which both are also listed at SGX, and another Golden Venture REITs and Frasers Thailand REITs, which is listed in Thailand. Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust, FLCT in short, have 103 properties, and all their properties are located in developed countries: Australia, Germany, UK, Netherlands, and Singapore. From this table, you can see that although they have property in Singapore, but Singapore's are mainly only on the business park and the commercial center, while their logistics property are mainly in Australia and Germany, where UK have 1 and Netherlands have 6 properties. And by looking at this allocation, you can see that the logistics and industrial property contribute about 61.1% of the portfolio, where 21.5% come from the office and business park, and 17.4% come from the commercial building in the CBD area. And Australia is the major contributor to this REIT, which contribute about 45.5%. And also Australia is the major contributor to their logistics and industry side, which is take up more than 50% of the logistics and industrial contribution. And look at the key financial metric, where the gearing actually is pretty healthy with a 33.7% and interest cover ratios of 7.3 times, where these REITs have a debt headroom of more than 2.4 billion. Let's look at the DPU for FLCT. As this REIT was pretty a new REIT. Initially, it was started with Frasers Logistics and Industrial Trust, which owned IPO about 2016, and the merger of Frasers Commercial Trust 2020. So it have only slightly more than 5 years of history. And from the DPU trend, you can see that the DPU trend actually it have been steadily increasing, although there is a slight dip in FY 2019, but the dip is pretty manageable. And we can see that the overall trend for the DPU have been increasing close to 10% over the past 5 years. Now let's look at Mapletree Logistics Trust. Mapletree Logistics Trust is the first Asian logistics focused REIT that listed in 2005, and the sponsor is Mapletree. And over the year, Mapletree Logistics Trust property have grown to close to around 180 properties. And the property is mainly scattered around the whole Asia Pacific region, from Japan to Korea, China, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and go to Australia. Then also they have 2 property in India. Lately they have done equity fundraising to acquire another 13 property in China, 3 property in Vietnam, and also a property in Japan. This has made the asset grow by another 10%, where their current asset is more than $12 billion. And by doing these acquisitions, which one thing about this acquisition, it is a year equity acquisitions, and it have further bring down the top 10 tenant, the number 1 tenant holding like CWT, from a 7.4% weightage to a 6.4%. As I don't like a REIT to have a key tenant that have a big stake in the REITs. If there's any financial instability happen to the key tenant, it will indirectly impact the REITs. And The REITs NAV have been increasing to 1.38 after the acquisitions, where the number of tenants have increased from 753 to 827, and the occupancy rate is still remain at the high level of 96.6%, with unchanged in gearing after this equity fundraising and after this purchase, where the gearing will still maintain at 39%. This will indirectly mean that if next year Mapletree Logistics Trust were to do another massive acquisitions like what they do in the past 2 years, then they may need to do another round of equity fundraising also, as their gearing is slightly on the high side of 39%. Mapletree Logistics Trust have a very impressive DPU growth over the years since IPO, although there is a drop in the global financial crisis, but they have managed to able to recover it and even go higher than the DPU before the global financial crisis. So let's look at what is the key differences between these two REITs, Mapletree Logistics Trust and Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust. From this table, you can see that both REITs actually don't really compete directly with one another. Let's look at Mapletree Logistics Trust. You can see that their assets are mainly focused on Asia Pacific region, and the only overlapping asset between them and Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust is the Australia asset. However, Australia assets only contribute about 6.8% to MLT, while Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust, the Australia assets contribute about half of their logistics and industrial sector and about 45% of the total risk portfolio. And let's look at Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust. They are not only on logistics, they also have office building, they also have business park. So they are more of a diversified risk which consists of office building, business park and logistics sector. And they are focusing on developed country, which is the Europe, Australia, and Singapore only contribute a small part of it, where they only have 2 properties. So to me, both are actually considered independent REITs that are not really directly competing in one another, and both are growing on their own space, on their own sector or region that they are focusing on. And let's look at their performance. We can see that the Mapletree Logistics Trust have actually outperformed Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust by a 30% margin if based on the share price itself. Let's look at how they perform over the COVID period. Actually, both perform in a similar direction, except that Mapletree Logistics Trust have shown some weakness lately, where their price has started to creep down. FLCT, the share price have been able to maintain quite stable, which make them outperform MLT over the past 2 years. Let's look at if we were to increase their dividend. I use this 5-year annualized total return from the SGX website based on 30th of November 2021. We can see that FLCT give you an annualized return of about 17.1% return compounded, and Mapletree Logistics has performed slightly better with a 19.3% return. But when compared to the rest of the REITs, actually both of them are top 4 best performing REITs in Singapore context in terms of total return. Thus to me, that these two REITs are not really competing with one another in terms of their geographical area. And both have a very good track record. It just that Mapletree Logistics Trust have a longer history and also have a bigger property base compared to Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust. So if you are an investor that prefer to believe that the e-commerce side, the logistics side of the Asia Pacific region will be growing, then you may want to look at Mapletree Logistics Trust. But if you are an investor that prefer to look into developed nations, Europe and Australia on the logistics sphere, and also want to have certain form of diversification into office, business space and commercial building out of Singapore region, then you can look at Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust. Both have done pretty well and have delivered a very impressive performance over the past 5 years. That's all I have to share with you today. And if you feel that this video has benefited you, do remember to like and share this video. Also do remember to subscribe and press the notification button so that you'll be notified on my next video. I shall see you in my next video. Bye bye.